Hi, welcome to the Second Wind Academy podcast. My name's Ryan Gonsalves and I'm your host today. Clint, welcome to the show.
Hey Ryan, thanks for having me. Obviously I've been looking into what the stuff you've been doing, and listening to a few of the podcasts, and I think it's a really good concept, and happy to share my side of my story, and if it helps someone in the future, I'll be very happy, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Listen, thanks very much. And you know what? I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to is the interesting bit about you is you played a sport, you transitioned to another one, then you switched countries, and now you've switched countries again. So within your career transition, there are many layers of transition that have happened all the way through. So I look forward to, I guess delving into that a little bit more today. That'll be great.
Yeah, no, I've kind of done that, like kind of switch between sports, and then obviously spent a lot of time in France, but now residing here in Dubai, which is everybody is very shocked when they hear that I'm living here from where I have been and where I've been. So it's been a journey, but I've loved every minute of it.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, let's kick off with where you are and what you are doing nowadays. What is it that gets you into Dubai? What keeps you busy? Hi, it's Ryan Gonsalves here. Thanks for tuning in today. I just want to take a moment to ask you an important favor. To help grow this channel, one thing will do that above more than anything else. Please hit that subscribe button. By hitting that subscribe button, you help me to grow the channel, allowing me to create more tailored content, improving the quality, and also to develop additional services such as the workshops, one-on-one sessions specifically designed to support elite athletes in that difficult transition to that career beyond sport. So if you want to join me on this journey to help inspire, guide, and connect individuals to find their second wind, please hit that subscribe button.
So rugby was coming towards an end, around that COVID time when COVID kicked off. We got in France where we'd do the pre-season, and then COVID would kick off. So it was pre-season, bash ourselves and then stop, then bash ourselves and stop. And I think my body just said, okay, that's enough. So during that COVID time, I was me and my now wife were I was in France still, she was in London, and we were looking at moving somewhere and back to either Australia or New Zealand to continue our lives. And then her company just threw it out there saying that they'd opened an office here in Dubai. Like, would she be open to running it and everything? And then one thing led to another, and once all the travel restrictions opened up, we were moving to the desert in the middle of summer, and going from London where it was still 20 degrees during the day to Dubai. I think it was about the third day I arrived here. It was I think it had hit 50, and I didn't think I was going to last a month. So on that first few days, I was really struggling. But been here for 2.5 years now. So settled in and really enjoying it.
Great. And what's your role at the moment?
So as I just said, we had a bit of time during that COVID time where I could before the borders opened up, where we knew we were coming to Dubai. So I started to reach out to a few people, and through LinkedIn, and now I'm currently doing legal recruitment for Calvin James Recruitment, which with that we do a lot of work across the GCC region, and so I've been in the role for coming up to 2.5 years, and learned a lot from being a freshie into the role, into the corporate world. Then to now I'm leading the legal recruitment for the company.
Wow, that's really good. I'm, as I often do in this show is, we start with, well, where are you today, and then recognizing, well, actually, getting to that role is coming from something that is vastly different, and that being a professional athlete. So, let's just take, I don't know, a few minutes now just to sort of take ourselves back and just try and figure out how on earth did you get to that role. And so, what I'd love to do is just kick off. Where were you? Where did sports start getting serious for you? What were you doing?
So obviously with my bloodline, obviously my father being one of the greats of the rugby league. His career speaks for itself. With the Manly Seagulls, me and my two brothers all got into trying to follow in his footsteps. And like coming through school, I think we focus more on the sports side rather than the education side of things. So it kind of wasn't until I started to make a few of the rep teams. When I was coming through, and then coming through the Seagulls, where I kind of had, kind of made a conscious effort to myself to give it as much as I can and everything, and really put in and try and get that career in well, first of all was going to meant to be the NRL that I was pursuing, and and then that was kind of where I really started pushing it and getting the love of the game and everything, and obviously the people that you meet kind of it does make it a lot easier when you're pushing for a career.
Yeah. So for you then, like you say, growing up, Northern Beaches, your dad's a legend of the game. You're playing rugby. You had those aspirations to be an NRL player. Then I'm guessing that was basically the focus for you.
Yeah, it was, and obviously, with my dad having that legacy at the club, and me being able to come into the juniors there, you know, um, you do feel a bit of that pressure coming from people around and people trying to live up to the family name, and I enjoyed every year I had at the Seagulls. It was great, and like obviously with the history that the family's got at the club, it was great to add a bit of that history and as well be around it.
Yeah. So what happened then for you in the game? So at what point did you start well, I guess to turn your back on one code and do the unthinkable?
Yeah, so I was playing in the reserve grade at the Seagulls, and at that stage, they had a wide squad where a lot of professional players, and I just was still at that age where I was still a young for the reserve grade side, and I'd spoken to my dad about it, and I hadn't been getting a lot of game time, so my plan was actually to during the season, I think it would have been 2004. My plan was to actually stop. I think it was after halfway through the season, was going to be just stop, have a bit of fun with some friends in, some rugby. I hadn't really played a lot of it, so I was just more a bit have some friends, play some rugby with some friends from school and stuff, and then I was going to move to Queensland Cup up to the Queensland competition and play up there. And then got down to Warringah and playing in the Sydney competition, and one thing led to another. I went from like fifth grade to first grade within 5 weeks, and pretty much stayed there, and that kind of started to get a few people talking at the Waratahs, and that kind of opened a few doors there. So I think it was something that was meant to just be a little cameo for some fun with friends, turned out to be a pretty good thing that turned out to like build my career.
Yeah, that's really good. That is really good. It's often how these things happen, not intentional, but just be it injuries, be it types of games that are
Yeah.
needed, and suddenly you find this rapid acceleration. So, did you get a sense then that the game, that you had a different future in rugby union compared to rugby league?
Yeah, I did. I got myself through, like, in that back end of that season. I started to learn the game. Obviously I'd come and I'd join the backs, which does make it easier when you're transitioning. I got to learn the game, and like my skill set really did offer a lot to in the centre position. So and also the coaching staff and stuff that were down at Warringah really did help me along and got me, to learn what my role in a rugby game would be, and it kind of opened my eyes to I'd always watched rugby, like Wallabies and stuff like that, but never actually played it. So once I had a few games, and I actually started to enjoy it a bit more, and then kind of spent my time just learning the game, and how I could contribute to each match. And once I did that, and as I said, my skill set really suited that inside centre position.
Mm. And what were you doing outside of rugby at this time?
So I was actually working as a landscaper because I was doing that while I was playing rugby league as well, and then doing the trainings at night. So they were very long days, out on the tools all day, training of the night and stuff like that. So I was working 5, sometimes 6 days a week there, and then playing, training and playing rugby on the weekends, and then I think it was after in 2005. The Waratahs brought me into the development squad there, and even that made it even longer because I was training mornings, then working, and training nights as well. So I was learning, doing landscaping, which I found really enjoyable, being outdoors. Obviously wanting a career in sport, being outdoors was definitely somewhere where I thought I belonged.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? That outdoorsy feel.
Yeah.
I think the other bit, I guess, is, you know, I mean, that's hard work, right? You're being a landscaper, you're doing the rugby training morning and evening. What, going through your mind, what is it that you were striving for at that time? What would you describe success as being?
Yeah, well, I think, once I'd made that transition to the rugby side of things, I had that, obviously, I was striving for that super rugby contract, and big thing about that was obviously getting that training, and then I think the landscaping did help me a bit, where because it is outside, you are kind of doing some physical labour, so it kind of does help with a bit of the your fitness and stuff like that, and even some strength in some aspects as well. So that was helping me a bit. But then luckily I was able to. I had a boss that was knew my aspirations, and he'd let me finish a bit early some days so I could go home and rest before training, or start a bit later on some days. So he was really good, and I do remember some days where I was absolutely just spent by the end. So I was sleeping sleeping very well through those years. In bed early, and not much would wake me. So I was very tired during the days, but it was all part of my journey to in the strive to get that Super Rugby contract.
Yeah, and so how did that go? That was the aim. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, I got into with the Waratahs, and I was getting close there, and then just there was a lot of good inside and outside backs that were in front of me that I was pushing, and I got a few times where I was 23rd man with the Waratahs squad, and just couldn't make a crack and get into that 22. But yeah, then I think there was 3 seasons there. I was with them, and pushing training with the full time squad and everything like that. So I really had goal of, I could see it in my future. And then something came up that, I think, it was after the 2008 season, I was, really training hard, and then my managers came up to me with an opportunity that kind of could take me somewhere else in the world. So, once that had come up, there was something that it was only meant to be a 6-month contract. So I thought I'd do that, get a bit more knowledge of the game, and then I'd be able to come back to Australia.
Right. So again, so for clarity, then that opportunity was an opportunity to move over to France.
Yeah. So opportunity came, over in the French system. They've got something that they call it a medical joker, where if there is someone that gets injured and is out for the season, you can bring someone in and kind of take that position. So this came up. One of the club that I was that I did go to, and they had one of their centres went down, and it all happened like literally in 7 days. Where my manager rang and said, "Oh yeah, something's come up," and I was just like, "Okay, we'll see what happens." And then pretty much 7 days later, I was on the plane leaving Sydney heading to France for it was what was meant to be a 6-month contract.
So in your mind, was it, well, I'll just go do this. It will be a bit of fun. I've never been. I get to play rugby. Or was it, okay, this is it. This is a big move. This is, something major's going to come from this. What was going through your mind as you accepted that offer?
Yeah, so I was speaking to my manager at the time, like in Australia, and we both said like it could be a good opportunity. Go over there 6 months, learn a different style of rugby, and enjoy it. Enjoy Europe, do some traveling and stuff, and then come back and get back into once the season finishes. Normally over there, their season finishes April, May, so I would have been able to come back and get back into the Sydney Shoot Shield. So I thought about it and then just went, it'll be a good opportunity. It'll be a 6-month stint over there. It was, something that, being in another professional environment, why not jump at the chance and see what comes from it.
Yeah. And what were you, you had landscaping. I mean, were you able to just leave the landscaping job easily? I'm guessing Warringah and, other towers let you go. I mean, from a career, that longevity perspective, how did that play into your decision making?
Yeah, well, the landscaping, like my boss he was great with it. He just said, yeah, go, like, obviously the opportunity is amazing, go and experience Europe. So, that, and at that stage, my time at the Tars was kind of coming to an end. Like they kind of said that they, in the top squad, they had enough backs to fill positions. And then, I was getting a bit older for the development squad then, so they didn't really want to keep me on board. So it was kind of Warringah were open to, obviously they thought I was going over for 6 months and coming back. So kind of longevity. It was more, as I said earlier, it was more just to as well, like get the experience of a different style of rugby, which I could hopefully enhancement in my game and bring back and utilize that in the Sydney Shoot Shield.
Right. Yeah. Well, that does make sense. Okay. I mean, it certainly does. And how did you find that experience?
At first, it was it was excitement. Obviously, leaving Sydney to move over to France. I still remember to this day, like getting on the plane. At that stage, I flew Qantas from Sydney, Singapore, London, and the whole way over, I was really excited. Yes, this is going to be fun. Got to London, and I had to go from London to Lyon, and it was like an hour flight. And I remember just sitting there, just about to take off in London, just thinking, what am I doing? Like, I've left Sydney, and it's like, I think I left and it was like 39 degrees that day. About to land in Lyon, which I think that day was -6 and snowing. And I'm sitting there just thinking, I don't speak a word of French. it's freezing cold. I've never like been in an environment where played in an environment like this where it's this cold. Like, what am I thinking? but but then I got there and the club was great. They welcomed me with open arms. I ended up knowing a few people that I'd crossed paths with in Sydney competition. So it was good, and they made me feel really welcome. And the club itself, it was more as with the foreign players there, they kind of made it feel like a family. So they knew that we were over there for rugby, but they wanted to make you feel like you were part of the town and part of the team and part of the club. So like it went from a range of emotions that of that, and but yeah, honestly, I enjoyed every single moment, and loved it over there, and that's why I stayed for so long.
Yeah, yeah, you did. I mean, and you said learn a different style of rugby. Going from league to playing an Australian, playing to obviously then going into union, but then playing I guess the Aussie style.
Yeah.
What was different as you went over to France? How would you describe the styles as different?
Well, with the Southern Hemisphere rugby, like you see, it's just so free flowing, and they throw it around a lot. Where you know, obviously in the Northern Hemisphere, you've got those winter months where you're playing, and it's like single 1 or 2 degrees, and sometimes snow, sometimes it's like just wet. So you can't, it just doesn't. The weather just doesn't allow you to play that free flowing rugby. So you've got to just learning though, obviously that field position is so important when it comes to there. You're not going to score 5 or 6 tries every game. You're going to have to win sometimes by kicking penalty goals and stuff like that, or you're going to have close games. So at the start, it did take me a while to get used to that. But the longer I was there, the more I understood, and the more like I could. I ended up going over there as a 12, and then with the knowledge that I've got, I ended up being able to end up being a number 10 and kind of running a team over there, which I wouldn't have been able to do when I first went over, and the knowledge that I gained over there was amazing, and and the help that they do offer, and over there you've got the top 2 divisions as professional competition, so every single player is professional, and you're training 2 or 3 times a day, so it was a good environment, and obviously the game that I got to know, it was good. I'm just unfortunate that I never actually got back to Australia to be able to apply that over there.
Never say never. You never know
no,
what's going to
no, no,
very
no.
well.
Boots have hung up.
Yeah.
Boots have hung up.
Well, we'll have to see then about coaching and all sorts of things to
yeah,
bring another style of the middle, a Dubai-based
yeah,
style of play when it's 50 degrees.
yeah.
That's a bit more interesting.
It is.
Um, yeah. So look, it's what I do find fascinating is again that shift. So for you, that initial shift, yes, the game is different. You describe that. Socially, you're mixing with different people as well, different language. So for you, what helped get you through that shift? The bit off the field.
Yeah, well, I think over there, I was lucky enough, as I said, I knew a few people from Australia and New Zealand that had been there as well, and with the French people, like they actually, a lot of them, they do learn a bit of English. They're just very timid, and they don't like to make they they get really ashamed if they make an error. So they actually started, but they did try to start coming out to us, us players, and use that English, and it was good because I was thrown straight in the deep end. It got me learning French. The club kind of helped out as well with some lessons as well. But I think the biggest thing that I learned was just to to kind of dive into the culture, that the French culture. Like, I wasn't going to be over there, and stick to my Australian culture. I was going to really get into that culture, and obviously that kind of you're meeting a lot of people, you're getting that language. It kind of it was really good, and I dove into learning the French, and but obviously after being there for so long, I did get to pretty much get to a fluent stage. So it did open my eyes as well to what happens on the other side of the world, because obviously being in Australia, you're so far from everything. Being over there kind of opens your eyes to different cultures, which was amazing. I really enjoyed it.
It's really interesting. I speak a lot about when I lived in France and Belgium for a few years. I think for me, the way I learned the language was through playing. So it was because of football.
Yes.
As you were saying, you need to learn the language so you can communicate with your teammates, and you need to have it quick. It has to be a very fast recall. If someone's telling you left or right, forward, back, whatever it might be, you need to be able to comprehend it and act on it straight away. So I'm fully understand that learning language through the sport gives you that cultural immersion, and it just you kind of makes you feel at home much sooner.
Yeah. And obviously, with us sports people, the sports men and women, we feel at home out on the pitch, and that kind of, as you said, like when you're out on the pitch, there is that language that and the thing is, as soon as you learn, obviously the rugby, I learned the rugby French before I learned the French, so it was a good kickstarter into actually learning the language properly.
Yeah. Yes. And so for you then coming through rugby, you made France, as a country became home for you. When you then start thinking, at what point did you start to think, hey, this isn't going to last forever, but I'm going to have to do something after the game? When did that when did that thought first come into your mind?
I think it was. I think I turned around. I think I was about 32 years old, and I remember I woke up one morning and it was kind of something just clicked, and like the recovery process after games and stuff like that just got a lot harder, and it took me a lot longer to recover from bumps and bruises and stuff like that. So that's when I started to get a bit of an idea of like what obviously that life after playing, and I did look into a lot of different things. Over there, I actually did look into coaching a lot. Had a lot of conversations with different coaches, both in around France and international coaches as well, just about the lifestyle, as well as the commitment and everything. And there was a few coaches that actually just opened right up to me and just said, obviously coaching is not for everyone. It is a kind of cutthroat business where it does make it difficult, as you're the coach, but it's if things aren't going well, you'll probably be the first one kind of shown the door. So kind of opened my eyes a bit, and it did. Like, I still do enjoy being in in and around the game, and but I just did. From then on, I was like, I don't think professional coaching is something that I wanted to go down, like a road that I wanted to go down. I want to, obviously, as I said, it's such a cutthroat. If you can be sacked pretty quickly, as we've seen around the world in all sports. So it was kind of that security type of thing wasn't really didn't look great. So that's why as I said, I still love being involved with rugby, but I'm not going to be. It's not a career for me.
No, no. So how did you then go about exploring other things? You mentioned you had this bit of an exploration. How did you do that?
Yeah, the first thing was, obviously, I spoke with my family, and I was getting to that point where it was coming up to, like, I think it was about a year before COVID hit. So and I knew my time on the field was coming to an end. I was ready. ready to look into that life after rugby. I had 1 or 2 years left on my contract, so I thought that was going to be my last one. So yeah, I started to speak to a few people, especially back in Australia, some family friends that have had success in the business side of things, but also I started to speak to career counsellors as well, and they kind of opened my eyes to things that I was learning in my rugby career that I didn't know that was actually going to help me in the future. Obviously that team building, which obviously but also just the conversations that you get to have with supporters, sponsors, etc. Like, I just thought that I was having a conversation, but I was actually learning a lot about building skills for that time, for obviously the life after rugby. These career counsellors kind of opened my eyes for that, and we had as I said, I had a few conversations with different ones, and they kind of started to point me in some different directions, where obviously I could use all those skills and move forward.
Well, and as they were pointing you into these different directions, how was that making you feel? Were you being moved into places where you were naturally comfortable, or what way did it open you up?
Um, yeah, it was actually interesting. It made me nervous. Obviously, I was really nervous about obviously starting that next chapter, but then also, like, the support I had around me. Obviously, my partner, now wife, she was amazing. Family as well. Like, just being able to chat with them and get a bit of an idea of what they're going, what they had, the experiences they had that would be able to help me as well. So I went from feeling nervous to actually really excited about getting into a role and building something for myself. Where previously it was all about sport and rugby, where I kind of was excited about learning something new and building something for myself.
Hmm. Yeah, it's quite a different shift, like you say, from the sport being in that team, and perhaps it's a different project, but it's what your role is. You're good at that role. You sort of master that role. You talk then about that nervousness on leaving, which luckily turned into an excitement, similar feeling, but turned
Yeah,
into excitement. What was it that excited you?
I think just the challenge that was coming up. Like, obviously my life had been all evolved around rugby for so long, and just the challenge of something new. Like, I think the excitement and nerves can, like, kind of all working together as to push me, and I think it was just more just pushing to just I kind of wanted to start straight away and get into it, and obviously learn as much as I can, and kind of. And as well, it was more as well to try and find out what I was going to be good at, like what career path was going to be next. So I was kind of, that was more of exciting as well to see which path I was going to go down.
Yeah, yeah. And so, what did you try?
So during that COVID time, I started doing a few courses, online and stuff like that. I really enjoyed during school. I did actually, like, really went well at maths, so I was looking into, like, accounting and stuff like that. Did a few courses on that. And then once I started speaking to career counsellors, and it wasn't until we found out that we were coming to Dubai that I reached out to a career counsellor here, and she was really, really, insightful for me to see what the market was in Dubai, and
Yeah,
sales is big here, and then it wasn't until I had 4 or 5 sessions with her,
yeah.
and it wasn't until, like, I think about the fourth one that she had a thought and thought maybe recruitment could work out, something for you.
Mm.
You kind of don't need anything studied in the background. You just got to kind of go forward with it, and so I started looking into that a lot more as well, and was more like pretty much as soon as I found out I was coming to Dubai, I started to reach out to anyone I could
Yeah.
with sales or recruitment.
Hmm.
So I spent my days waiting for the borders to open, just
Yeah.
pretty much on LinkedIn, sending out messages and everything, and obviously updating my CV, and trying to reach out to as many people as I could, and trying to get a network started here.
Yeah, brilliant. Seems like you did that well because, we kind of get into where you are today
Yeah.
in this recruitment role, and it's interesting for me because you moving countries, a couple of times now, finding yourself in in the role. What do you think? I know you worked with the counsellor, but what do you think you've brought from your professional sporting career into the role that you are doing today?
Well, I think like especially with recruitment, like you've got to have that. You've got to have that attitude where you're going to get a lot of no's and you're going to get a lot of setbacks, but you just got to keep going forward. And like as sportsmen and women, we get that a lot. We get a lot of setbacks where we've got to push through them. And I think big part of when I was working with Calvin, my director, who took me on, he really pushed for that. Said that's going to be a big thing. So that, but also the conversational skills that I learned, like speaking to all those sponsors, supporters, and along the way, that's kind of you know been able to give me the knack of just being able to speak to people and start conversations and you know and yeah, that's a big part of what I do today. And obviously the rugby side of thing on my LinkedIn page is a very good opener, and everybody asks how I've got to here.
Yes, yeah, and it is, and to what extent do you, like you say, people are going to ask. To what extent do you, I suppose, play into that or use that to help you open conversations or understand more about the individual?
Oh, I do. I use it a lot. Obviously, my past is I'm very privileged of the past I've had, so I do use it, and especially in the UAE at the moment, like in Dubai itself, there's you're looking at about 6 million like habitants here, and only I think 250,000 are actual UAE nationals. So you get a lot of Brits, you get a lot of South Africans, Australians, Kiwis. Like it's a big multicultural country. So rugby and sport itself is a big part of that. So it kind of I use it a lot to open doors and open conversations, which with senior general counsels and head of legals, it kind of opens a lot of doors and starts a good conversation.
Mm, yeah, yes, it does. I bet it does. And it is, we spoke, I often talk about sport. We said it from a language perspective. It helps, or sport helps you learn the language when you're in France. And here, I get that similar sense where sport continues to open doors for you whilst you're in that corporate world as well.
Yeah, it definitely does, and like especially the time when the Rugby World Cup was on. That like I know I copped a lot of flack from a lot of other nationalities with the way that the Australians went, but
Yes.
it opened a conversation. It got a few things over the line in the end, which I'm very happy with now.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. I know that the sport, it helps, it opens that door, it kicks out the conversation. But after that, there's got to be, or should I say, ask your opinion really. After you've got past that sport, that opening of the conversation, to what extent does actual talent for what you're doing then have to start to come through?
Yeah, definitely. You need to know what questions to ask and everything like that. And that's why I was lucky. My director Calvin, who brought me on, he's taught me a lot. I still got a lot to learn, and but he taught me a lot of just the way the recruitment game is. Like for me, everybody asks like being a legal recruiter, like that's you must have done law or something. But luckily, I said that to my director. He goes, "We don't have to know like we don't have to know the laws. We just know the recruitment process." So that kind of like helps us, making sure that we're asking the right questions, knowing the right things that we need to be looking for, etc. So, having a director or having a boss that is a good teacher has made my transition so much easier, and he's helped me so much that he's pretty much just brought me through, like kind of showed me the steps of how to go from not knowing recruitment at all into now I know how the whole process works, and it's so far it's been very successful.
Yeah, and I'm keen to delve in a bit or understand a bit more about that, your description of success, because like you say, you came through, you've got that an employer who understands your aspirations. Again, like we speak about the landscaping, and you've got an employer there who knew what you wanted to achieve and was supportive in that environment. And whether you did it intentionally or not, you found
Yeah.
yourself in another environment where you've got a boss who sees your aspirations and is prepared to take the time to get you up to speed to be successful.
Yeah, well, Calvin himself, like he's been in the recruitment industry for a while, so he was looking. It was just the perfect timing for when I was arriving in Dubai, actually, because he was looking for someone new to come on that he could teach. He could take all his wisdom that he's known and pass it on. So luckily, I was in the right time, here, right time, right place, kind of. And since I've started, like he's been so helpful, like with every single like bit of the process. So it is good to have that person that kind of a mentor that you can look up to, and he knows kind of your background and how your background can move forward.
Yeah, yeah, how it can help move you and keep you
Yeah.
progressing. So, for you today, what is success for you?
For me, I think it's just like still very new to this. I'm still very new to the recruitment game. So for me, it's just getting better every day, every week, every month, every year. Like just continuing to grow, and where I'm seeing the results with that. Obviously, in every week, I'm getting better every month. Like even he can see the results, and which obviously does in the recruitment side of things. Obviously, the commission that adds to it in the end. So and obviously, with the commission that getting more commission obviously means you're improving, and I just feel that I'm a lot more confident in showing up and making phone calls, going to meetings and everything now. Like I'm getting better every month at the job that I'm doing. And I'm really enjoying it, actually. Like, helping people find new jobs it's so satisfying. Like, when you place someone that has been out of work for a few months, and that the gratitude that they show you, it really does, like, hold something special in me, because I just enjoy helping people. And when you do that and you get to make that phone call to tell them they've got a job, the reactions that you get, it's just amazing.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's nice that what you're finding enjoyable is that helping someone to close a gap to really solve that for them. Um, in your role in a company in that environment, when you think of, I asked you before, what is it you brought with you in order to be successful? I sense so much humility in you, which makes me feel that athlete, it's always about improving
Mm.
and that incremental success. What do you think you've had to give up or reduce in order, from being a rugby player? What have you had to get rid of in order to become successful in your current role?
Um, Yeah, that's an interesting question. Like, obviously, you got to give up like the all the accolades you get from the supporters and stuff. But I think when it comes to going from, obviously myself coming from a team environment and coming into a team here, it's very similar. Like, you're working as a team for that end goal, which is, to get to fill the placement, to fill a role for your client. So, you know, in terms of what I've given up, I kind of feel like I haven't, obviously, the physical part of the rugby, that's kind of, all in an office now but again, I'm still find myself in that team environment where our team is working at that end goal, which is to, obviously fill the roles for our clients. So in a way, um, I still feel like I'm, kind of in sport, but I'm not, because I still feel like I'm in a team environment here, which, we're all striving for that one goal, which, is good.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Well, it is good. I agree. I think that for
Mm.
me, that team spirit certainly stays in, and it is a challenging question to think what is it about yourself or the way you
Yeah.
operate that you give up, and but what is fascinating there is you the first thing you mentioned are those accolades. You're not getting the crowd cheer every pass, kick, great tackle, or that kicks through, but you find yourself in an environment where there's a leaderboard. You find yourself in an environment where there is that sort of competitive edge or that visual nature of what's taking place. How have you found that?
Oh, definitely, that's going to stay with me for a long time. Like, I am, people who know me know that I'm very competitive. Like, I'm very, I'm that competitive that I don't even let my wife win in, some things. So, but no, yeah, here it's the same. Like, it's, this industry, it is very competitive. You've got to be able to win you're trying to win business, but then you're also trying to provide, where that's the competitiveness, where, obviously within the team, as you said, there's that leaderboard up on the wall, where coming from that sporting background, where you're always trying to be the best you can be, where it's kind of converted to here as well, where I'm trying to be on top of that leaderboard come the end of the year, and I'm doing as much as I can to fulfill that, and push as hard as I can to get that over the line.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting thinking, as we talk about the transition that you're going through, and let's be honest, we're what 2.5, 3 years in to
Yeah.
to this effective transition for you. Um, what would you say has been the most challenging aspect of leaving the game and getting to where you are today?
Um, well, I think for me, I was I was kind of lucky in a way that as I said, my career finished as, COVID kicked in. So I had that, and in France we had a pretty intense lockdown, where we were locked down for 6 months, or 6 or so months. So I had that time then, plus a few more months until we moved to Dubai, where I could kind of, get prepared for it all. So I think, I was lucky enough to go from, having that rugby career to having obviously the time off, where everybody was kind of off in lockdown, and then start a new career fresh after that. So kind of, I kind of had a slower transition to, I think, other people, where they've had to get straight into it. But yeah, I think it kind of helped me a lot to go from playing, where some time where I could, had about, I'd say close to 9 months to a year, where I what obviously had left the game. So it's kind of, kind of made that transition I'd say a lot better for me, because, and made me adapt a lot more to this, because to the corporate world, because I wasn't having to go pretty much straight away from, doing that training program into straight
Mm.
into the corporate world, I had that time to adjust.
Yeah. How funny. It sounds like COVID was a positive. That time, that enforced time at
Yeah,
home made it a positive shift.
yeah, I know. I probably wouldn't be. There wouldn't be many people in the world that could say that, but yeah, it did. It made it. It was a big thing for me because obviously finished my time with in France as well, which one little bit of a negative, but then I was able to move to London, to be with my wife Holly, and now we moved here, so it did help. It did help us a lot.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Really, optimism. It is a skill, or it is a key
Yeah.
capability that many people don't have. And it's good that you're able to see the positive in many of these environments and these situations. So that's kudos to you for that. That's great.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it was, as I said, it was a tough time for everyone around the world, but yeah, I was lucky enough to, kind of did, uh, it, just being able to use that time to, change careers. It really did help me.
yeah, in some respects, it's like it took the pressure off having to do something straight away because
Yeah,
you couldn't do something
yeah,
straight away. And I think for a lot of athletes, indeed for anyone who wants to be changing careers, we get this sense of, well, I need to do it now. I need to make a decision. I need to be applying for jobs. I need to be bringing in revenue for the family or responsibilities. But that enforced lockdown meant you actually had time to reflect and had time to think
yeah,
about things and speak to people remotely as well.
yeah, yeah. That's right. You know, that kind of got me into where I am now. Like obviously being able to take that time, speak to the right people, and kind of took let me digest what was happening, and then like move on it. So as you said, it wasn't rush. It was I could take my time and make sure that I had I looked into everything before making that decision and where I was going.
Yeah. So look, last couple of questions really, but when you think about the transition that you've had, um, for someone who's listening in, what would you say they should focus on in order to help make their transition as good as possible?
I think making sure you're having conversations with some good, like you're reaching out to people. The best thing I did was speaking to career counselors actually really did open my eyes into the skill set that I had built from my sporting career into where that would lead, with that where kind of what roles and what profession after rugby that would help. And obviously this is that's their job to know kind of what different skill sets can strive in different areas. So I think that was something that I really took a lot out of, like speaking to them, getting insight into something that I'd never looked into as much as I should have. I wish I'd done it earlier. Like even now, like if I could say one thing going back, like now that I've started this career, I kind of wish I'd like kind of done it a little bit. I know rugby took up a lot of time, but I kind of wish I'd started to do a little bit before I'd finished rugby, because now that I'm in it, obviously it's I'm enjoying it, and I do wish that there was probably I could have started earlier rather than waiting till like the end of my career.
Yeah, listen, Clint, I want to say thanks very much for sharing your story, sharing your perspective today. There's a lot to take away from your journey. And look, you're only a couple of years into your transition after sport. So let's certainly keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely. No, thanks for the time, and if this does help someone, I'm really happy. As you know, fellow sportsmen, I really do wish them all the best moving into the professional world after sport. And yeah, if anyone does want to reach out, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm, available. I can have a conversation, or if anyone wants anything, I'm available to help, or see if you need any advice or anything, I can help out.
Yeah, brilliant, Clint. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks, Ryan.